Okta has been in the news of late for a breach that happened, a compromise that happened in January. Part of the issue is they failed to really do their notification practices in a timely manner, as people would expect. It took them a few months to kind of do the analysis. They thought it was covered, they thought it was fine, but they didn't really do their standard notification. And so that's where they're getting in trouble. So, as a company, it's very important that you do have your incident response plan in place. You do have your notification practices, you have your analysis, you have your forensics. You've figured out ahead of time how you're going to deal with all that. A lot of times, companies will have a forensics analysis company on standby to do that really technical deeper dive, because don't expect that you would have that expertise, but that you just contain it, preserve it, and then hand it off to them, and then they're able to do that deeper dive. Plus, it's a third party assessment and an independent assessment from you, so that's a good thing too, because hey, I went above and beyond and I had them take a look at it, and this was the opinion that they gave me. So it's very good practice to have breach support with another company. That way you're not just making these decisions on your own. I'm not saying Okta did or didn't do that. The point is just kind of using this as a context. But very important that you have your incident response plan in place. You have your notification practices, your timelines contractually. Who are you going to notify? When are you going to notify them? What's that going to look like? What analysis are you going to do before? What root cause analysis are you going to do after? And then what's going to be that follow-up notification? And then obviously any corrective action or remediation that needs to take place, that you handle that full cycle. And so your IRP, your incident response, should take care of that. But Okta, they're getting a lot of pushback because unfortunately they took a while to really notify. And so this becomes a reputation thing, right? And so as a company, you really need to decide what is going to be that relationship with your clients, that not if this happens, when it happens, and I hope it never does, but you plan for it as though it will happen. So when it happens, just assume it. What's that going to look like, and what's going to be that relationship with your clients, and how are you going to communicate that to them, and the timelines, and then what are contractual obligations, any sort of regulatory that you need to pull into that analysis as well, that you consider all of that, and then you meet those timelines and you meet that communication. Because where it's going wrong for Okta is not just that it happened, but it's really about their reputation now. And if you don't, depending on what you know about Okta, they basically handle a lot of the access controls for a lot of different companies, signing in to their platforms. And of course, they're, cloud based, and it's a bad spot to be in because a lot of companies use this tool. And of course, you can read more details about who was potentially compromised, but it's going straight to the heart of the matter. Of course, they're going to be a target of a breach. I mean, duh. It's logging into people's systems, it's logging into applications, it's access to data. They're going to continually be a target. All of these major cloud based providers like this, AWS, Azure, Okta, the list goes on and on. They're going to be targets. They are targets right this very second. They're trying to be. And so it's very important, that they're all over those practices. But then for the companies that use these cloud providers, which is pretty much every company today is using some sort of kind of laundry bag of these cloud providers. What is, we got to do the due diligence on that. Like as a business owner, I can use a third party to provide a service or use their infrastructure or whatever to make my service offering better or my company better. But I got to take responsibility for what they're doing, because ultimately I own it, right? It's not. So somebody asked me this question recently. They said, who is responsible for my site security, for my environment, my hosting provider, my team? Where do we draw the line of work? I mean, those are great questions, but the reality is, as a business, you're responsible. It's kind of like a mindset thing. If you just assume that you're responsible, and you assume that the buck stops with you and it's going to fall back on you, you'll probably do what you need to do to be prepared for it. If you say, oh, this happens, it's going to be Okta's fault, or it's going to be AWS's fault, or it's going to be what other random supplier or platform you use, well, then automatically, just kind of human nature, my level of due diligence goes down because I can point the finger at someone else. But if you point the finger at yourself and you say, I'm responsible, I'm responsible for my company. I'm responsible for the data. Clients entrust me with this. I'm responsible. And if I choose to use a cloud infrastructure like AWS or Azure, or I choose to use, to use a platform for my access control like Okta or the myriad of other things that are out there, I'm responsible. And so I want to make sure, number one, that the companies I choose are doing what they need to be doing from a security standpoint. So this is where you do a security due diligence on your suppliers, on your vendors. You ask for their SOC 2 reports. You ask them for their security posture. Obviously, the larger companies, that's easy because they have them. You just get them. You just got to read them. You got to look at them and figure out what, is this good for you? But then you get some of the, lesser companies, and maybe they have a SOC 2, but, do you have anything else? And what is my really evaluation that I'm going to do on this company before I choose to move forward with them? And that's really the thought process. I'm going to do an evaluation of a vendor or of a supplier that I'm going to use because I'm responsible. So even though I leverage another company to help me, I'm responsible. And so I'm going to make sure I am a proper steward of even choosing that relationship. Then once I choose the relationship, I'm going to monitor it ongoing. I'm going to make sure that they stay in an acceptable place. So year over year, I'm going to ask them for an updated SOC 2 report, or if they're high trust or ISO or whatever it is, or if I need to do a deeper dive, I'm going to have a conversation with them, or maybe I'm even going to ask for certain evidences, whatever that looks like. But you're going to set up that program of how you're going to not just do the due diligence initially to make the decision to leverage this third party or this platform, but then you're going to do it ongoing because I'm responsible and I stay responsible. Then okay, they're doing everything right. That's great. Now there's shared responsibility. And this is where a lot of companies go wrong. Shared responsibility. They're responsible for some things. I'm responsible for other things. And if you look in a SOC 2 report, for example, there's a section, the complementary user entity controls. There's a whole section in there that says, as the reader of the SOC 2 report, we're doing all this other stuff, but in the complementary user entity controls, or the COOCs section, this is what you're responsible for. And so you're responsible to have an information security policy. You're responsible to train your people. You're responsible to do the provisioning and to do user access reviews and all the myriad of other things. You're responsible to classify your data, whatever it is. But you read those sections. So you do this, you read the SOC 2 report. Are they doing what they need to be doing? But then shared responsibility, what do I need to be doing? And so, yes, I'm making sure that you're doing what you're doing, what you're supposed to be doing, but then I need to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I did a different video on ServiceNow, and you could pick any company really, but many of the instances, I think it was 70% of the ServiceNow instances are leaking data. Well, that's because they're not, and then ServiceNow, of course, is saying, hey, we're doing everything, we're right. Y'all aren't configuring the platform appropriately. Y'all aren't doing what you're supposed to be doing. And so that's the shared responsibility. So it's very important that not only are you doing the due diligence on the vendor, but you're also doing the due diligence on yourself to make sure that you're configuring it appropriate, that you're following their guidance for how, from a security perspective, that it should be configured and how it should be set up. And it's not a one-time thing. That guidance changes. And so you staying on top of that. And then access control, for example, is a huge one. Backups, there's all sorts of technical controls that you would want to make sure you stay on top of as well, because those things change. And so you want to make sure that you stay on top of that as well. So in the case of Okta, it's a reminder that it's very important that we have our incident response plans in place. We test those plans. We understand what our notification and our communication and our timeline are. In the case when a breach happens, we expect it to happen. And then contractually, we understand what that looks like. And we have all of that documented, and we've tested through all of that. And then we do it. We actually do it, because that's where Okta really kind of went wrong. And that's where people are really getting onto them is the whole notification timeline. And then we want to make sure we pick appropriate vendors. Not that Okta's not an appropriate vendor. They're very big in the space, but we want to make sure that we do initial due diligence before we make a decision to move forward with the supplier. The cheapest one is probably not the one to go with. That's probably the one that introduces risk. Don't do that one. Go with the one that increases your efficiency, that increases your offering, and at least keeps your risk posture the same, and ideally brings it down. And so go with that one. Don't go with the cheapest offering. And so there's a responsibility to really evaluate initially and ongoing those vendor partner relationships that we build into our companies, and just like Okta. And then we also want to make sure that we do the due diligence on ourselves, that shared responsibility with this partner, this platform, this tool, whatever it is, that we are working with the vendor to make sure that we're doing our part from a security standpoint to configure it appropriately, to make sure that any vulnerabilities are addressed, and we're staying on top of that, but that we're also doing practices and principles in the back that we should be doing across our organization, like access control, user access reviews, backups, vulnerability scanning, all of these other things that come into place. We want to make sure that those practices go around that as well. So that is really the lesson that we learn here from Okta, and it's the reminder that's constantly top of mind that it's not just our house that we have to keep in order. We have to be mindful of others' houses that are related to us. And these are these partners and these vendors and these tools that we pull in as part of our offering. Very important. And then the most important part of this, who's responsible? I'm responsible. I'm responsible for my house, and I'm responsible for the related houses that I have chosen to partner and attach to my house. I'm responsible. Because as long as I keep that mindset, I will do what I need to do due diligence wise to take care of my house, but also to make sure that those that I choose to do business with and bring in as part of my service offering are maintaining their houses as well, so that I can confidently to my customers and future customers, I got this. Your data is secure with me. We've got our program. We're monitoring these things. We're all over this. And if the unfortunate happens, we've got a plan for that. We've put that. We've tested it. We've got in the contracts. You're good. You are safe with us. And that's really the name of the game and the assurance we want to give to our customers, right? If you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you would like it, and also go to the channel and subscribe, and that way you'll get notifications of new videos that we post many times a week.